Hey everyone, welcome to the video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Solomon Thomas. I'm a former Marine. I'm about to graduate with my master's in psychology, and I have the goal of one day being a clinical psychologist. And so I'm making these YouTube videos for a few reasons. One, I'm trying to clarify my own thoughts and my capacity to speak. And I'm also hoping that some of the ideas and theories that I present in these videos will be helpful to anyone out there who's listening. So in this video, I wanted to just share an experience that I had on my morning run and then riff on that in some respects. So for those of you who don't know, I'm currently training for a marathon, and so I'm running 6 days a week. And I have a relatively normal run route that I go on just about every morning. And on that run route, I often pass a crossing guard. This woman who stands at this one intersection. It's a four-way intersection where there are stop signs and there are stoplights. So part of me wonders why she's there. But this is a pretty safe neighborhood, I would say, although it's relatively high traffic. It's a suburb. I don't think anything's crazy going on. But anyway, there's a crossing guard there. And every time I pass her, and this has been going on for, I would say, a few weeks, maybe a few months now, every time I pass her, typically it's early in the morning, so there's not too much traffic, but she will come off the sidewalk, come into the street, and look at all of the traffic to make sure that it's okay for me to cross. Even if there's no traffic, even if there's a light and I have the right of way, she will engage in her job and go to make sure that I'm safe. And I run past her and she says good morning and she'll make a little joke, hey, go run 2 more miles for me or something. And it's just a nice encounter every time that I see her. And this morning, specifically, I paid more attention to what she was doing and I saw everything that I just elucidated. But this time, I noticed that she seemed to kind of go above and beyond. And so she saw that I was coming from a few blocks away and started to do her thing. And she actually saw that there were some cars going, but she made sure that they stopped so that way I could safely get across without having to stop myself, without having to stop and kind of press the button so that way I can cross. And she told me that. She said, I wanted to make sure you kept your momentum going. You're doing great. Keep getting after it. And I don't know this lady. She doesn't know me, but we have this relatively regular interaction. And after this morning's interaction, I thought, wow, she is really taking her job seriously. And that's beautiful. That's kind of the word that came to my mind. And it made me think about how, from one perspective, her job is maybe relatively unnecessary. Like I mentioned, this is a safe neighborhood. From my months that I've been running around this city and this community, the traffic doesn't seem too crazy. I could understand if there were a lot of children and a lot of school buses driving through, but that happens minimally from what I've seen. And again, there are stop signs and stoplights. So in one sense, one could question the purpose of her job. But on the other hand, she takes her job seriously. And you can also imagine the alternative where maybe, and this is probably true, I'm not seeing everything and I'm not seeing all of the children that she helps cross the street. And it only takes one mistake for something tragic to happen. And so she could be mediocre at her job. She could be lazy. She could only engage maybe when she absolutely needs to. But from my perspective, she is all in. And there's something about that that's encouraging and beautiful. The other word that I thought of was quality. I think many people could understand the pattern that I'm trying to capture here when it comes to food service. So if you ever gone out to a restaurant and you've had good service and you've had bad service, that difference in quality is something that's not always able to be captured in words, but it's more easily described by referring to specific behaviors. And so it's as if quality is a pattern of behaviors that arrange themselves to make a pleasant or unpleasant experience. And those aren't the strongest words to use there, but I'm going to go with it. And so then it just made me think about how, what would our world be like if everyone tried to do their best to promote good quality in everything that they did? And this was something that was taught to me, I would say at a relatively young age, but definitely in my time in the Marine Corps. And even before that in high school, when I did JROTC, I had mentors who told me that, look, Solomon, even let's say you enlisted in the Marine Corps, because when I was in high school, I didn't exactly know what I was going to do with my life. No matter where you go and what you do, you should always do your best. Even if you're in the Marine Corps and your job is to scoop out poop or to clean the head, like, you do the best that you can. And is that the best piece of advice I've ever received? It's a lot easier to say than it is to follow. But one of the things that I noticed as a Marine, as an officer leading other Marines and sailors, when I spent time as a process engineer at corporate America, and even as I'm now in the realm of academia, you can tell when people are trying and when people aren't. You can tell when someone is engaged in a domain of work just to exist there, or when they're engaged to try to make a difference. And even if that difference is small differences can add up over time and can change your experience, or they could change the experience of the community, or they can change the experience of some other person. Say, for example, when it comes to the service industry, I had this thought about how we never really know what someone else is going through, particularly when it comes to strangers that you meet, say, at a coffee shop or at a bar. And I just imagined someone going to a local IHOP or going to a Waffle House, and maybe they had a rough day, and maybe they just got fired, and they also got into a fight with their spouse, and now they're not sure where their next check is going to come from, and one of the things they want that day is a good meal. The experience of that meal in that context means a lot more to that individual compared to, say, your average meal. And having a bad experience could be the last straw. It could be the tipping point. Having a good experience in the similar vein can also be the thing that cures cynicism. It could be the thing that shakes someone out of their despair. And it's interesting to me to think about how our life, in a very real sense, consists of these small moments. And we have this ability to attend to those small moments in a way that makes them meaningful, and in a way that allows them to amalgamate into a life worth living for ourselves and for other people. And so that crossing guard and her diligence and the seriousness with which she took her job in something that outside looking in could seem trivial, and I could say, well, she doesn't have to do that, but in trying to understand why she would want to do that and the goodness that comes from that mode of being in the world, it refreshed me in a sense, and it made me just want to reflect on how everything you do matters, for better or for worse. I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.